Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Devin Adams. I'm a Fortinet instructor here in Tempe, Arizona for Dynamic Worldwide, and I've been building this topology so I can eventually get to my demos. I know in the last video we did a couple of things here. We added an additional pfSense open source firewall router to act as a remote network. So these guys will eventually have the FortiClient on them, and that way we can practice our SSL VPNs and look at some different scenarios there. What else did we do? We made this internal web server here that's just doing a GNS3 toolbox, very low footprint like web server. So that way we can test something right through that tunnel. And we also did DNS record for that machine. Why? We can test some DNS questions that we had in regards to SSL VPN. But that's down the road. So we're just building the topology. Now, I said at the end of the last video that I was going to start adding some branch FortiGates, and I realized, you know what? Not so much, not yet, because I forgot. As a best practice, I should have been backing up my configurations on this FortiGate, right? And that way, if I do have to roll back, especially like in a lab environment or a test environment, that's really important. Because we want to make sure that we can undo something quickly instead of having to try to reverse engineer a mistake out of the firewall. And then I thought to myself, you know what, we're going to have so many moving parts eventually. We might as well just kick on the FortiManager, turn on the FortiAnalyzer settings, right, and essentially have it automatically back up the config files, because you can do that. I mean, that's a great provisioning step into the FortiManager, is to add it to a backup ADOM, it's called, and that way the FortiGate still feels like it's read writes. You just administer to it just like normal, and this FortiManager becomes pretty much a configuration repository. All right. Also, a FortiManager does act as a FortiAnalyzer. It's just limited, and what a FortiAnalyzer is a log aggregator. And I do have just a couple of questions about reporting, especially for those that don't like to mess with SQL, right? I'm going to show some quick ways to do reporting down the road. So I might as well be collecting log files, right? But that's kind of getting ahead of myself. So what we're going to do in this video, okay, is, for starters, I know I said that already, but it's been my experience, and maybe it's just placebo effect, maybe it's just in my head, right? But these GNS3 virtual switches, okay, um, do a great job. But when you start getting like a lot of traffic through them, right? It's been my experience, at least in the past, that they can drop packets. So our first goal here is going to be to upgrade the core switch, and I'm just pretending like this is our core switch because it's right next to our main FortiGate. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to use Open Vswitch. That is a virtual switch platform that uses a flavor of Linux. It's open source, and you install it like any other appliance here in GNS3, and it seems to be able to handle the traffic way better. It is way more resource intensive though, because it is an appliance, it is a virtual machine. That's something to keep in mind. So we're going to do that. And in the same time, I'm also going to kick back on this FortiManager. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and increase some of its resources. Okay. And that's going to be, actually, I should have put that before to this one. So we're going to go ahead and give the FortiManager 4 gigs of RAM in our hypervisor. And I'm also going to give it 2 CPUs, because that's what my license allows it to have. And the reason why is because with the FortiManager acting as a FortiAnalyzer, it's going to need a little bit more beef to it. We'll go ahead and we'll do that. And then I'll multitask that, because this takes a while to reboot and to come online. I'll go ahead and I'll swap out the switch, okay? And then once everything's up and running, we'll go ahead and put an IP address on the FortiManager. We'll drop a license file on it, just like we did with the FortiGates up here, all right? And normally I try to use the free VMs, but like I said, the people that take my class are usually using the FortiGates already in production, and the demos that they requested is gonna require to actually have a license. I apologize about that. So, but we'll drop the license file. And then the very last step is that we're going to turn on administration domains. Okay. And those are pretty much uh, administration boundaries. So, in other words, we can partition the FortiManager and have independent databases for devices and keep them separate and assign separate admins to them. The whole point of it is to keep it separate. Now, necessarily, we don't have to do that in our situation, but you do still need to turn them on to see that backup ADOM. So, anything that's beside the root ADOM, we're going to have to flip it on so we can see the additional ADOMs, just kind of like VDOMs on the FortiGate, but they are technically different. So, anyways, and then also turning on the FortiAnalyzer settings. So we're going to make the FortiManager a FortiAnalyzer, and then I'm going to stop there because even just me explaining what we're going to do in this video is probably going to take longer than actually doing it. Maybe. All right. I just realized I'm like 6 minutes in. And then I'll stop there. And then everything else I just talked about, we'll do it all over again. So, and I know I'm crunching out these videos, guys, but I've been sitting on them way too long, and I finally have an opportunity to do them, even though I am teaching this week. So I apologize for the amount of videos, okay, and also the redundancy too. So check out my playlist. There's a good chance that what you're looking for, if anyone's looking, is already there. So, but anyways, all right. Man, I just never shut up. Okay, let's do this. So for starters, let's go ahead and increase the resources on this FortiManager. All right, so out of the box, if you use the template from GNS3, let's see what it gives it. All right, so we're going to go to configuration, and it gives it one CPU and a gig of RAM. Now, uh, FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer 5.4, okay, and down, that was the default bare minimum for the VMs, okay, and then 5.6 came out, and then 6, and now we're up to 6.2. We're probably up to 6.4 now. They started suggesting that you have 4 gigs of RAM, okay, and 2 CPUs, and I think even the free license runs that. So if we have a problem with this, we're going to find out real quickly when we increase these. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase this to 496. Okay, so I'm going to give it the full 4 gigs of RAM, and then also I'm going to increase it by 2 vCPUs. Okay, and we'll find out real quickly. All right, if um if the free license like that or not. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'll put it back down to the one, and to the 1 gigabyte, one vCPU. I'll drop the license and then I'll increase it. Okay, I just wanted to do this before I powered it on. Also, with the hard drive, now these blank QCOW2 files, you can download them right in the Add Device Wizard in GNS3 if you're ever missing them. It pops up a web page and it goes right to the downloads. And it's just a blank hard drive file, okay? Because we are going to be doing logging, and even though I know I'm not going to come anywhere close to 30 gigabytes, I just wanted to real quickly show you how easy it is to make a new disk image. All right, so for example here, if I wanted to make 100 gigabyte file, I can just hit the create button right here. All right, QCOW2, which is KVM, I'm going to hit next. All right, I'll leave the defaults on, and then here I'm just going to increase it by 10. All right, so that way we have 100 gigabytes. Now that only fills up as we use it. It's not going to allocate it beforehand. Okay, and then I hit finish, and now we have 100 gigabytes. So there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to turn this on, and we'll find out real quickly if it likes it or not. All right, so let's double click and at least see if it's posting. Now, if it gets stuck here, okay, it didn't, but if it did, I knew that I screwed up the VM. So in other words, the RAM and the CPUs, but it looks like it took it. Okay, so I'm going to let that actually just sit there for a bit. Okay, and I'm going to replace this switch next. I'm just going to let that go. So I'm going to delete the generic switch from GNS3, provided from GNS3. Okay, so, and by the way, all of these devices here, I just took out layer 2. So it shouldn't really freak anything out. All right, it's not like I'm setting IP addresses. But what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to find my Open vSwitch, and if you don't have this installed, you know, you can go ahead and come down here and hit add and then hit the next, and then it takes you to the download page and all that jazz. So if you don't have it already, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop it in there. Okay. So, and I'm going to real quickly just relabel this with my management IP address. All right. So, but this is an appliance. So I'm just going to real quickly hit configure here. All right. It looks like there's 16 interfaces. So that's a bonus. Okay. And maybe it's a Docker. I'm not really seeing any RAM. So, but that's okay. Right. And then as you can see here, we can set the different IP addresses if we wanted to do if we wanted to do layer 3, okay? But I'm using it as a bridge, so I'm going to leave it just the way it is. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to power it on, okay? So, and then we'll see it posting. All right, so here we go. And geez, I hope it worked. Anyways, OVS. I think I did that right. All right, let's take a look. I thought there was more to it than that, but let's see. I mean, there's an easy way to test it out. And I always skip the 0. I can't remember why. I think it's like a management interface. I could be wrong about that, but I'm just plugging these back in. It's not a big deal. And it looks like we got green, so I mean, there's connectivity. And don't forget that this was port 5. All right, so there we go. Bada boom, bada bing. So how can I test this, right? Well, it's easy. I just got to go into my machine here and see if I still have connectivity. So I'll just go to google.com. All right. So did it make it? Yes, it did. So once again, we just completed that. Pretty easy. But instead of using the GNS3 switch, I'm using the Open vSwitch. All right. So which is an appliance, which in the past has handled more congestion better. All right. When our network gets a little more complicated here. So man, I got to clean this up. Okay. So um, let's see how our FortiGate's doing. So bling, we did that, we did that. Now it's time to actually get to the GUI, configure it, and license it. Okay, so once again, I'm going to borrow the license from my class. Cross my fingers that it's not being used somewhere else. Um, maybe it is, maybe it's not. We'll get a dupe license there, and if that does happen, that's not a big deal. I'll just have to change the management encryption level and just use it for 15 days. That's pretty much the limitation on it, but here we go. So we're in. Now I did this in the first video. I went ahead and I tested it and I put on the password. But now I'm going to do a config system interface and I'm going to do a show. And this is a default. Out of the box on port 1, it's going to have a default IP address of 192.168.199. So we're going to have to change that. So I'm going to say edit, okay? Port 1, set IP to 10.1.1. Now remember our DHCP. We did a scope there. So I'm going to have to pick something out of that range. Now I'm going to keep the Fortinet products. Not like I'm going to have a lot of them here, but I'm going to keep the Fortinet products in the 200 range in the last octet. So this one I'm going to say is 200. Okay. My default gateway, remember, is 254 for the subnets, so on and so forth. So /24. All right. And if I do a show here, I mean, that looks good, except for I am going to do for the allow access, not just HTTPS and SSH. I'm also going to do ping because I want to be able to test the connectivity. All right. So, and it should be able to ping anything now within that little subnet range. So I'm going to do an execute ping and ping the FortiGate just to make sure that I can get to it. Okay. And I can. I should be fine. So, and that's all it takes to get to the GUI. So let's go ahead and get to the GUI and drop a license on it. So, all right, here we are. And then I just have to type in the IP address of the FortiManager, which is going to be 200. All right. Now, obviously, HTTPS redirect ain't working. Ain't working. Who talks like that? All right, here we go. Isn't working. So HTTPS. There it is. Self-signed cert. We know about that. Bada boom, bada bing. Here we go. the FortiManager. So, all right, and we're in. So, not too shabby. So once again, you get 15 days. Okay. To use these, once you power them on, you do need a support contract to download the free VM. But other than that, the limitations on them are not too bad. So I've been able to do a lot with the free VMs and playing around with the FortiManager and getting used to it. So I have plenty of videos on that if you go to my playlist. So, but here, we at least need to do some basic configuration. So let's go to settings, all right? And let's see here. For starters, I got to change that host name. So that's going to be HQ, uh, FortiManager. All right. We'll get a serial number one of these days. Okay. And I know you can barely see it, but there is a check mark there. It's because my GUI is so, the resolution is just so wackety whack. Can I zoom out? Can I zoom in? Nope. But I promise you it's there. It's like right there. Anyways, that was definitely a web browser issue. What else do we got here? Our time, right? We already talked about in the other video making the FortiGate responding to system time requests, so NTP. So what I'm going to do here, just to make sure that everything matches up, is that I'm actually going to point to the FortiGate. All right. Do I need to? No. It's the fact that I can, okay? The domain controller is also pointing to the FortiGate, so everyone's time should be pretty darn in sync with each other. And we are here in Arizona. All right, so there we are, okay? And then that's what the check mark looks when it's not being covered. There we go. So what else? Let's go ahead and go to network, okay? And from this IP address, we are eventually going to use the FortiGate and also the web filtering, all right, to act as a FortiGuard server. Okay, that's just something that the FortiManager can do. It can act like a FortiGuard server. It can push down updates, firmware, so on and so forth. Guys, this is brand spanking new. I have never seen this bind to IP address before. Okay, so it looks like must be on the same subnet. Bind should at least be different from the interface and the FortiGate update IP addresses. I have no idea. I have no idea what to do there. So I'm going to uncheck that for right now. But in the older versions, I mean 620, you just checked them and then you pointed the FortiGate to that IP address. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. So, but these were the management configurations that we did ahead of time when we did the config in the CLI just a moment ago. Okay, this is why I'm here. This is the default gateway. It does need internet access to verify the license. So I'm going to point the default gateway to the FortiGates. All right, I'm going to hit apply. All right, and if you look at the routing table here, we now have a quad 0. All right, and if I wanted to test that for sure, of course I can go ahead and open up the CLI console and ping something like google.com. And as we can see, we have connectivity. All right, so not too bad. So let's go ahead and drop the license file, and I'm gonna knock on 40 wood. All right, that I'm not using this somewhere else that I can't think of. So if so, I'll just quickly revert the snapshot. So how do I even drop a license on this thing? Who's ever done that before? So if you guys are rocking a VM, you can check the resources, okay, and what's being licensed here. And as you can see, it does say valid because it is a free tier, and they give you 10 devices to play with. So technically speaking, I should actually be fine not having to drop one. I'm just going to drop it just to drop it. Okay. So, but here we go. We're going to upload it, and we already downloaded those license files, and these are ones that we own as an organization. I'm just borrowing it for this demo, and there's my license file. All right. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to reboot the system, and I know for a fact that it's going to fail. All right. And the reason why I am so smart. I just remembered at the very last moment that these IP addresses are bound to the license file. So if you use a different management IP address, you will get a fail. So that's going to come back as unlicensed. I am a ding dong. So good times, guys. So anyways, while that's happening, we can see it happening through the CLI. Uh, Geez, I'm such a ding dong. You know that, guys? Anyways, but that's okay. It just there just needs to be that registered management IP address somewhere on the FortiManager. So if I do admin and I do password, by the way, it will not let you access the GUI, at least in older versions, if this is the problem. Okay, so and yes, there is no way to check the management IP address on the license file unless you go into your support contract web portal in support.fortinet.com. So it's not like I can just open it up and look at it, but I just happen to know what the management IP address is because, well, I create my own labs for my own classes. So, all right, here we go. Are you guys ready? So config system interface. I'm going to edit port 4 because I know I will not use port 4 in this demo. All right, I'm going to set the IP address to 10.0.1.241. And that is the IP address that's bound to the license. All right. And that's not going to scare anyone out there. It's not like I'm giving you like a serial number. All right. Set allow access to HTTPS, SSH, and ping. I'm just not going to connect anything to it. And as you can see here, it goes, wait a second. You're doing something with the management IP address. Yeah, I know. It's going to reboot itself, and now it should come back as licensed. So I did that on purpose. No, not really. So once again, guys, there is a development license that you can get that I think is not too bad. Also, you can always ask your sales reps if they have any options for you. They should be kissing your nose anyways. And if you say, hey, I need a license for testing, you can purchase them. So it just gives you a little more functionality. I mentioned the development one because I was looking it up myself, and they to practice like the APIs, they give you like a FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager, stripped down license, but it's still enough to practice with. Um, Anyways, so ask your sales guys. So here we go, admin password. All right, did we get a error message? We did not. So there you guys go. We are now complete with step 14. All right, so we've configured and licensed our FortiManager. Now we're going to turn on administration domains so we can do the backup ADOMs later on and also the FortiAnalyzer. All right, so here we go. We're going to go to our management PC again. Okay, um, here we go. And by the way, it has a serial number now, so it's a new self-signed cert. So that's why I'm making another security exemption. Okay, um, it should be all right though. Maybe. Dun dun dun. Come on, dudes. Or maybe not. Interesting. Let's take a look. Um, Execute ping 10.11.11 or 1.1.254. Okay, yeah, I mean, it should be getting there. I think my web browser just might be. Oh, there we go. I wasn't patient enough. Admin, password. All right. And there we go. We're licensed. And hopefully it doesn't dupe license on me. No, you cannot give these things out like Christmas presents. You can only use one at a time. Okay. Um, anyways, but as you can see here, there really isn't much difference because I am using one of those demo license. So they only give you 10 devices. And I do believe it's a part of like the development, but at least it's valid. And all that jazz. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look here real quickly. And I just wanted to show you guys that we do have two CPUs. All right, so that did take. Okay, and then also the hard disk here. So if I go down to my, let's see here. Is underneath advanced? See, that's the weird thing here is that to look at your actual allocation of how much you have, I'll probably have to go through the CLI. I'm just getting ahead of myself. I was going to show you the hard drive and how much was available, but I can do that somewhere else later on. So, but if you guys notice here, if I go to all ADOMs, I only have one, and that's because ADOMs are not turned on. Okay, so if you're going to do anything other than the roots or a FortiGate read-write ADOM, like if you're going to add like a FortiMail to it or a FortiAuthenticator, or even if you're going to collect syslogs as a FortiAnalyzer, you've got to turn ADOMs on. So here we go, enable ADOMs. We're going to say okay. It kicks me out, and it kicks me out to kind of like refresh the GUI. All right. I'm going to go in there. And now, as you can see, we have to pick our ADOMs. So I'm going to go back to the root. I'm going to go to my settings. Okay. And ADOMs are now turned on. Not too bad. So that will come a little bit later on in the next video. I'm going to see what to do about that. Okay. But I also want this thing to collect logs as a FortiAnalyzer. So I'm going to come down here into the dashboard, and yeah, it's as hard as that. Do you want to make this a FortiAnalyzer also? Sure, I do. So I'm going to hit OK, and when it comes back, it's going to be a FortiManager that's also capable of log aggregation. So while that's booting, guys, just a really short lecture. Yeah, right. Like I ever do anything short. A FortiManager is for central management. Okay, it's there to centrally manage the FortiGates, and it does a pretty well job with it. It does take some learning, but once you get it down, it's really cool, for lack of a better word. All right, it is a good solution. Now, the FortiAnalyzer actually shares the same OS. It's not FortiOS, it's the FortiManager FortiAnalyzer OS, okay? But it shares the same OS and therefore runs on the same kind of hardware. But with the FortiAnalyzer, all you get is log aggregation, reporting, alerts, and all that jazz. You don't get central management. So the fact that they are essentially the same kind of appliance, but obviously the FortiAnalyzer has more storage, Fortinet was nice enough, and I do say nice enough, to include also a smaller FortiAnalyzer license within the FortiManager. So if you're a small enough shop and you don't need a dedicated appliance, you can have both with one license. So thank you, Fortinet, for being awesome like that. Okay, I know other vendors make you pay for sneezing on it, um, but let's go ahead and log in and just verify that we have the FortiAnalyzer features. All right, and we know that we do because of these bottom panes right here. All right, so there we go. So remember, the whole purpose of this was to, in the next video, to add our, and this could technically be a demo, but I'm going to add our FortiGate as a backup ADOM, so it becomes a configuration repository. And then I'm also going to start collecting logs, because I might as well, so I can do some demos for reports later down the road. And also, more importantly, is as I start playing with the different features on the FortiGates, I can roll back real easily. So there you guys go. Not too bad. So thank you for your patience on the amount of videos and also of the length of these bad boys. Okay. So by the way, if you look here, see how it says 200 gigabytes? Yeah, I don't think it's really using 22 gigabytes. I think that's all reserved or something. I have no clue. Maybe that's all the separate ADOMs, because each one gets a gigabyte each, so it's probably just reserving it. Anyways, but I just wanted to show you guys also right here that it did take the hard drive that we created. All right, so not too shabby. Okay, so um, pretty cool, huh? And it looks like we're limited to a gigabyte a day of logs coming into it. I think we can do that in our lab environment. So, and by the way, this is not a normal when you first kick on the FortiAnalyzer features. It's building all the indexes. And it does run a SQL database to do the indexing for the logging, so that is not uncommon for that to spike up for a little bit. Okay, um, let's see here. The allocated disk quota of ADOMs is over the available disk space. Please check the quota configurations of the ADOMs. Yeah, we'll do that later. So, not too bad there. Anyways, guys, so no big deal. So yeah, so in the next video we'll finish that and we'll keep going forward. And I apologize for them being so long. And hopefully we'll get to demos. So, all right, guys, have a good night. I'll see you later.